CJRB. We may never know what it stands for. Christ Jesus really blesses? Caitlyn Jenner's rubber boobies? Who knows? But we do know that CJRB is the budget-friendly arm of Artisan Cutlery, and we also know that Artisan Cutlery is one of the biggest names in quality Chinese-made knives. I've been a fan of Artisan and CJRB since the earliest days of my serious knife collecting. Some of my earlier purchases include the Smoky Mountain Knife Works exclusive brass-scaled versions of the Mini Archaeo and Mini Shark, and the immensely heavy and massive brass Proponent, as well as my beloved, albeit basic-looking, large Feldspar and D2. And while chances are if you're watching this video, you don't need me to tell you that CJRB puts out some of the best truly budget-friendly options these days, and they've garnered quite a sizable following thanks to their ever-growing lineup that is just chock full of excellent pocket knives for well under $50. And they've made something of a habit of undercutting Civivi as far as cost goes, and a good price war is good for all of us, so keep it up CJRB, Tri-State approves. And now then, like I said before, I love my large Feldspar. Great Ergos, excellent blade shape and cutting geometry, a good daily beater that feels sturdy and well built, and personally I think it looks nice to boot. So when I caught wind that Blade HQ was back at it again with their let's throw a super steel on a budget knife nonsense, and that the next model to receive the upgrade was the Feldspar, I could not get my credit card out fast enough. And well, as is usually the case when you buy stuff online, a few business days later, this arrived. The CJRB Mini Feldspar, identical to its big brother in every single way except for dimensions. Well, that and in this case the blade steel, but we'll get to that. As is traditional for Blade HQ exclusives, the Mini Feldspar here is sporting these booger green Jade G10 scales, and personally Jade scales don't get anywhere close to blowing my skirt up, aesthetically speaking. But like the D2 variants, the scales are nicely contoured and well sculpted for ergonomic bliss. And ignoring the color, the flowing lines and voluptuous profile is very easy on the eyes. This particular variant has the black hardware to matchy-matchy with the 3-inch long coated S35VN blade, and I really love the profile and the shape of that clean and simple drop point blade. A very no-nonsense looking blade that manages to be elegant and nice looking, and yet understated. The uber deep carry pocket clip is also coated to match the rest of the hardware on the blade, and unlike its bigger and older brother, the clip screws are thankfully flat-topped and countersunk, so you won't be getting hung up on the pocket. So the looks, other than the snot-covered scales, are dynamite, and the ease of carry is actually an upgrade from the D2 variants, which is nice considering the D2 models carried like a dream already, even with the screws sticking up. Now then, the Ergos, just like its older and cheaper brother, the Mini Feldspar here is just a pleasure to hold. The contouring on the scales works perfectly to fill the hand, and even though we're talking about a small knife, as the name would suggest, there are no hotspots, no pinch points to report, and we thankfully still get a sizable and usable finger choil that doubles as a actual sharpening choil. So you can comfortably choke up for that delicate cutting work. All in all, the Ergos are nothing new, just as good as the big one, and just as good as the old ones. The action, well, it's wonderful. The blade is running on ceramic bearings, and I'm not sure if this is all in my head, or if they actually upgraded the bearings or did something different for the S35VN model here, but it feels a lot smoother than the big D2 version I have. This is a thumb stud operated folder, and thumb flicks and spidey flicks are just as snappy and reliable as you could want. Lockup is solid as a rock, and the liner lock is easy to access. Oh, and on the close, this little budget baller is nice and drop shutty, and again, silky smooth. I've really been impressed by the action. It was good on the big D2 model, and it's really great on the new souped-up mini version here. The action is great, good and fidgety for a liner lock. Now then, back to the blade, the big talking point on this particular model. Gone is the D2, and in its place, good old S35VN, a modern super steel created specifically for use in folding knives, and once upon a time, not too many years ago, almost exclusively available on a very high-end and expensive folder. And it is good and slicey. The blade stock on the Mini Feldspar is a touch thinner than on the larger model, and thanks to that tall flat grind and the ultra thin cutting edge, the sliciness factor on this thing out of the box is just exceptional. And because it's S35VN, it has held its edge extremely well over the past couple of weeks, and I've been carrying and using this knife a lot. The coating has also held up well to 3 box-filled trash nights, and all in all, I have absolutely no complaints on the cutting performance here. If you've handled the D2 variants, it's just as good or better, but with a stainless steel that will hold an edge for a good long while. So for $35, give or take, you can pick up the D2 variants, small or large, in a plethora of colorways. And I still say you should do that. They're so good and cheap enough that they almost become disposable. Or if you're feeling frisky, you can head over to BladeHQ.com and snag one of these new S35VN variants if they're still available. The large one will run you about $79.95 and the small one here will cost $74.95. So we're looking at an increase of exactly $40 over the D2 versions. And I just so happen to like this knife enough to justify that price increase. And now, whether you're able to justify spending an extra $40 for that upgraded steel, well, at the end of the day, that is up to you. Regardless of which variant or steel you end up with, I can assure you that you will be getting an excellent cutting tool with incredible ergos, solid action, and a super slicey blade. And at the end of the day, isn't that everything we look for in a knife? So, until next time, thank you for watching. Bye-bye now.